Welcome to episode 3 of Targeted Impact, helping membership organizations thrive by Wild Apricot. Now, this is our 3rd episode, so hopefully I don't have to say this too much longer, but I will say today, this is a new bi-weekly initiative where we invite on a thought leader, expert within the membership space to answer your questions directly. I'm Andrew McQuaw, the head of Demand Gen here, and I will be interacting with our guests on your behalf. And we have a killer guest today. We have Sean Kosofsky, aka the Nonprofit Fixer. Sean, formally welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here.
So before we get to the questions, let's talk just a teensy bit about you. So Sean, if I recall correctly, you've been in this space for nearly 30 years. And in that time, you've worked with women and minority rights, bullied youth, underrepresented voters, the environment, and really you've kind of done a whole bunch of the different roles that people fill within a membership-based organization. You started knocking on doors and worked your way up to being the executive director of a nationally visible nonprofit, the Tyler Clementi Foundation. And more recently, you've been working with the climate, if I correctly remember, the Climate Advocacy Lab, while also simultaneously running your own consultancy, Mind the Gap, where you all focus on, transforming organizations into leaders by doing a couple things, but two that stuck out to me is better fundraising and more sophisticated boards, which makes for more impactful groups. So hopefully I did your nearly 30-year career justice, but I'd love to just pass it over to you and give you the opportunity to share with the audience a little bit about yourself and what they should know about you before we get to the questions.
No, that's spot on. I might not look like I've been doing anything for 30 years, but I'm 44 years old. I got my start at 16 working at the YMCA. For those in the US will know that. But yeah, did a lot of work in civil rights, women's issues, women's health, and then also, as you mentioned, bullying prevention, polling, a lot of political campaigns also. And then ended up in New York running, from Detroit originally, then I was in North Carolina, then New York running the Tyler Clementi Foundation, focusing on bullying prevention and now climate change. So a wide range of issues, wide range of rules and organizations, communications, fundraising, management, operations. I've worked helplines, I've just done a lot of different things. And that's sort of like my moniker, the nonprofit fixer. I'm a little bit of a generalist. I've done a little bit of everything. And so I can help people understand a lot of the different roles and things that I've seen and how I've seen it done well and how I've seen it be done poorly. So that's a little bit about my background, yes.
Oh, awesome. Well, definitely you're the right person to answer questions from an audience from across the board. So that's really great. So before we get to the questions, just a few final points, everyone. So number one, if you want to ask a question, it's really easy. You just drop it into that question panel. I'll read it to Sean. We will get a lot of questions, so if you don't get an answer immediately, hold on. We're going to try and get you as quickly as possible. Alternatively, if you're a Twitter user, you can post on Twitter using the hashtag Targeted Impact. We'll pick it up there and answer that question. You can also live tweet. We'll be live tweeting, so feel free to join in. And with that, let's get to the questions. But before we get to the questions from the audience, I want to ask the audience a question. So audience, so we know what to talk about today, I want to know about what area of managing a membership-based organization do you find most difficult? So I'm going to launch that right now. So you got a couple options. You got strategy, marketing, you got finance, human resources, operations, tech. So when you're looking at your own organization, where are you finding it difficult? Right. Oh, wow. So I'm looking at the results come in. Now, sadly, you guys can't see the results, but I can see these. And strategy and marketing, Sean, we are getting 53% of people saying strategy and marketing is their biggest challenge. The next closest is technology, it's 16%. So strategy and marketing seems to be a serious pain point for people. So I think I got the right guy here, right?
Yeah, I've certainly worked a lot in strategy and marketing not only for my consulting practice serving nonprofits, but also in a lot of nonprofits working in local or national sort of situations. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we are good to go. So we're gonna have a lot of strategy and marketing questions. So let's actually answer some questions. All right, everyone, time to go. So we got question 1 coming from Christina. What's the most effective way, Sean, in your experience, to grow membership?
Well, I would definitely say it depends on your organization, right? So if you're talking a true membership organization where people are paying dues or some kind of an annual sort of membership, which is in the United States has like a legal connotation to being a member, you might have some privileges like voting for the board or getting some kind of rights with an organization. So the best way to grow membership in my mind is it really depends. If you're an organization that does advocacy, then you're trying to actually pass laws and change the law and do things to actually not just like feed the hungry, but end hunger, then I think petitions are a great way to try to really rally people behind a very particular cause or bill or piece of legislation. Advocacy organizations have done a really good job at having a very clear piece of legislation or a very clear demand of a very powerful person, and then rally people who have the similar interest and then have quick wins. So the more you win, the more people want to see you win, right? So you can pick smaller fights and then win those fights, and then you'll start actually raising money and making more money and getting more membership. If you're a very local organization, I mean, right now this is a very difficult strategy, but I think if you're very local, going door to door. I know organizations that have built hundreds of thousands of members by just going door to door. And some organizations call a member someone who agrees with them or signed a petition, and some of them are people who actually have given a donation. I got my start going door to door for the environment for an organization called the Public Interest Research Group in Michigan. They have 10,000 members across the state. All of them they got door to door. It's a very lesser known organization, but still had a lot of success going door to door. There are some metrics and some math and some understanding of how many doors you have to knock on to get someone who will give you money and sign up and answer a survey. But it's a really powerful way to get membership. From a marketing perspective, one thing I think nonprofits don't do well enough is thinking about their ideal donor or thinking about their ideal member and getting in their head. In marketing, we sometimes refer to this as like a customer avatar or a marketing avatar, donor avatar. And is it Jane? She's 34. She's got 2 kids, and this is the magazine that she writes. Like really coming up with a composite idea of who is going to support your organization, and then thinking clearly about what pain points they have, how your organization helps address those pain points, and then possibly throwing some Facebook ads at that, or actually having a landing page to give away something that immediately solves that problem, delivers some value. Marketers have learned about this for a long time and have been using this strategy for a long time, and nonprofits have still not really caught on that it's a really powerful strategy. Those are just a couple ways to grow membership, and we could go deeper, but that's just a couple few right there.
Yeah, no, that's great, Sean. Just kind of jumping off of that. Now may not be the best time to be knocking on doors, especially in some locations. So
I think it's fine. I actually think it's fine.
really,
Just you
okay.
might find people are hungry for human contact, right? If you're able to stay distant, some of the tactics at the door are going to change. Handing someone a clipboard is no longer best practice, but you can absolutely. People are going to be doing it through the elections. People will be going door to door. We still need to have contact. You can still do it. Just be ready for some people to be like very nervous, even more nervous, but you can still do it.
Okay. Wow, that's okay. That's I hadn't even thought about that, but I guess yeah, it's not a ring and run, but it's a ring and take 6 steps back. Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. Question number 2. Matthew would like to know a great deal of work organizations. A great deal of the work organizations do is live and in person. What can organizations do to fulfill and further their mission during these difficult days?
Well, there's a lot of things you can do virtually. So for example, I made a list before today because I knew this kind of question was going to come up. So one thing I'm really impressed by, there's an organization, a friend of mine, Colette, she works at Paws with a Cause in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a national organization that connects pets and dogs specifically, basically as service animals around the country for those that are disabled. And they pivoted in like a really incredible way during COVID, where immediately upon lockdown, they had a major fundraiser that was planned just weeks later, and they had to cancel that, and they put the entire event online. They identified lots of the stakeholders in the organization and decided they were going to have a very particular communication strategy for every stakeholder. So the executive director, put out daily notes to the staff about what was happening and what the organization's future was going to be. They picked the 50 largest donors and immediately sent out a correspondence to those 50 large donors and basically said, everything's fine. Here's what we're doing. Here's where the need still is. All of the animals are fine. Just not soliciting for money, but just really reassuring everyone and letting them know that there's still a large need for what their cause was. And this incredibly strategic outreach that they did. And they did like a 5-day campaign where they were focusing on hope, and they even called it positivity. And they were just going for weeks of just really focusing on hope and positivity and showing examples of how pets and people were still needed in this organization. And they put out very targeted correspondence with videos, happy, smiling, well-adjusted people working with their dogs, and they were making requests, solicitations for 4 or 5 days in a row during this one little burst. And they made something like $50,000 by taking their in-person event online and just making these targeted solicitations, putting out something to their stakeholders, and made $125,000 just from the foundations and major donors. They barely even requested anything, but those funders just appreciated the forward-thinking sort of like getting in touch with us and reassuring us, but also letting us know that the need hasn't gone away. And they were able to bring in lots of money that way. So they did a masterful job of that. And for folks who want to learn more about how they did it, just reach out to me, or you can contact Pause with a Cause because they are a model for this. Other ways you can connect with people virtually are, we are very lucky that this is happening in a time where we have unlimited numbers of technology options available to us, and many of them are free. Many organizations have decided to have lots of Zoom calls, lots of Zoom trainings. Your staff could have meetings or check-ins or one-on-ones, or if anyone on your team has talent or training abilities, they can start opening up a rotating regular way to train the public for free or for a fee. So your donors and your stakeholders and your members could get together. Doing regular calls and shoring up your base. If you have chapters, or if you have volunteers, or if you have people that are at a distance, or people that are vulnerable, simply reaching out, reassuring them, talking to them about the mission and where the organization is at. It might not be immediately lucrative, but it absolutely is something organizations can do. And you can do text messaging campaigns right now. You can do friend-to-friend cards to thank people or to engage them. You can pivot onto something else like the census or to voter registration. There's other things happening where you could maybe pivot your work to something else. And then Facebook fundraisers, I'll be talking about that a lot today. It's a very underutilized opportunity for people to engage their donors and bring in lots of new donors with unrestricted fast cash for a nonprofit. And then also another thing I've seen flurry around the internet is that through the George Floyd racial injustice sort of protests around the country and through COVID, people have been generating Google spreadsheets. So all over the country, it's like, here are a list of Black-owned businesses here in San Francisco. Please go support them during COVID or they're going to shut down. Here are a list of businesses that aren't doing a great thing right now with distancing. So if there's some kind of shared document that you and your universe and your people can all work in together, like crowdsource some kind of problem-solving technique, that's a great way to ask people, not just for money, but hey, everyone, we're building a list of things for people in need. Everyone, here's the shared document. We trust that you're all going to put in great stuff. Just go in. And so there's just all sorts of ways like that where you can collaborate on a shared project to keep people engaged.
Yeah, those are some really great ideas. I like the idea of almost over communicating is the way we often talk about it in marketing, right? You just really explain to your base, to your in the audience or marketing space, your audience, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. We are doing this because, and yeah, it does give a lot of assurance. So yeah, I love that idea. I also really appreciate that that crowdsource spreadsheet idea. That is great. I think I saw a New York Times article on it, but then I never put the two and two together. So thanks for that, Sean. That's great. Okay, next question. We have a question from Jody. Our nonprofit is revising for 2020 and beyond and looking to connect with the future and meet the needs of business owners in the area. Networking is a key factor in successful networking, or sorry, successfully connecting with these businesses. Please address the networking process for the digital world and under the pandemic. So I think some of what you've already said kind of touches on that, but specifically let's focus in on that networking idea. How do we network digitally?
So it is incredibly challenging to begin your networking now. But so let's just start with if you're just starting now, like new companies, we don't know anyone at this company, Ford or Pepsi or wherever you're trying to get money from. If you don't know anyone there, LinkedIn is going to be a powerful ally for you. So there's software out there. It costs some money. It's about $5,000 a year. I think that's the price right now. It's called Relationship Science, and it's great science. It's a great software because it allows people to dump. Everyone on the board can connect their LinkedIn profiles to the software. They don't get the personal information. The software company does not get the personal information of your people. They already have the personal information on everyone in the United States because they buy lists. So everyone on your board can connect your LinkedIn networks to the software, and then everyone can kind of see how many degrees of separation they are from someone critical, right? So if my whole board connects LinkedIn, I can be like, oh my God, I'm just like 2 connections away from Mary Barra at GM, or like, so maybe I'm the person who should go to her and make this connection, right? Obviously, that's an extreme example. She's the CEO of a big company, but so relationship science is software that I think it could pay for itself like easily if you have a robust network of people willing to connect their LinkedIn networks to that software. But if you're just starting fresh and new, now is the time to really have board members and staff and volunteers and key leaders in your organization sit down, open up their Rolodex, and really map out the 30 or 40 people who are connectors. Not just people who are wealthy, not just people that are on boards, but people who are connectors, people who have 3,000, 4,000 friends on Facebook or on LinkedIn. The people that are connectors are the people who are just not going to hesitate at all about making intros or connections or tagging you in a post of someone else who works at some company. Hey, there's this local organization and they need some help. Do you have any tips? So when you're trying to reach out cold in this environment, those are some of the scrappy kinds of strategies. If you already have a process of networking that you've already developed, you have your pitch, you have the product, you have the sponsorship packet for the thing you're doing in the fall. If you have all of that stuff mapped out, it gets even easier. So I will say, and I'm sorry for the background noise here, that when you're trying to network with companies, they might have employee resource groups. These are really powerful organizations. So if you're a minority, a lot of companies will have these employee resource groups for minorities. They'll be like an LGBTQ employee resource group or an Asian American employee resource group. Those organizations, those groups, sometimes they're just collections of employees at a company who are parents or who are hobbyists. But those employee resource groups are sometimes the connectors. They can actually get money out of their company. So find the people that are in those organizations because they not only have a budget, but they also want to engage the employees in a charity. Many companies will make the biggest investment in a nonprofit if their workers are volunteering there. So for a lot of companies, Wells Fargo, like lots of different companies, I think for us, Estee Lauder, when I was at Tyler Clementi Foundation, lots of other companies, that if the more people volunteered with a charity, the more likely they were to connect. So definitely have exactly how people can get involved, connect with those employee resource groups, use LinkedIn to your heart's desire, and consider software like Relationship Science. Those are just 4 easy ways right there.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. I guess the other way to kind of expand your network on LinkedIn is to just start putting out a little bit about your organization. I mean, people aren't going to want to post necessarily self-promotional things, but if they're working with a really great organization saying, hey, can you just kind of post our most recent update to your LinkedIn saying that you're volunteering with your organization or you're a board member, I don't think many people would say no to that.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is sort of the most polite social networking platform. People are just really professional. You rarely see infighting or people calling each other names or just being very political or religious, or it's a very not controversial. LinkedIn is a terrific platform for following thought leaders in your space or people adjacent to your space, liking their posts, just following them, sharing their posts, and then bam, hey, I've been following your stuff. It's really terrific. My group is doing something really similar. You should check out this blog post or this infographic we did, right? Lots of folks in marketing know how to do this, right? So those are great ways to use LinkedIn. And of course, there are other platforms like Pinterest, and Instagram is increasingly a place where you can find influencers. But all of these different places have groups. So LinkedIn has groups for nonprofits, or they have groups for other things. Facebook does the same. Get into those groups. Once you're in a group, you're sort of on the inside. Follow these posts, like these posts. You can't do anything in under 2 weeks. You got to take a couple weeks to warm yourself up to make an intro to someone in a group. Just provide value, be useful people, answer lots of questions in these different forums, and then you could approach someone who's a thought leader there and say, hey, can our organization do some more with your members? Can we do a free training to get in front of the people in this banking Facebook group or whatever it is? I work with one organization, one of my clients, they do work on fintech, like finance, for lower income Americans. And so they're always cozying up with banks and to get money, and it works. So it's just one example.
That's great. Thanks for that, Sean. Okay, let's move on. Oh, this is a very interesting question. So Mary says she runs a Friends of the Library group, and the average age of their members is over 60. How do you get in touch with and connect with younger adults if you have an organization that skews older?
I think that there are lots of different strategies. Of course, if you've got a little bit of a budget, Facebook allows you to upload a list of people and then find lookalike audiences. So if you want to get right to it, like a list of strangers who are in that exact demographic, young people 25 to 35 who like reading, who have time on their hands, or like whatever, Facebook can target them with precision. And for just a small budget of like $10 a day or whatever, you could run a Facebook campaign to steer people toward a really fun landing page or some conversion tool, or letting them know some kind of really awesome thing that then gets them aware of the offers or services or offerings or whatever for a library. So whatever the goal is, if the goal is to get more people to the library, then you'd have one particular campaign. If the goal is to just get awareness or money, that would be a different kind of campaign. So Facebook advertising is one of many. Reddit is on the rise. Pinterest is on the rise in terms of Pinterest more for women, but for anyone. These platforms are absolutely on the rise, and their advertising platforms are really growing. So if you've got a little bit of an ad budget, that is a laser focused way to find exactly who you want. Other than that, you might need to do some demographic outreach, and that is specifically to people that are in that space, right? So people ask us all the time about diversity. Where do I find African American? Where do I find LGBT? Where do I find Asian American people? Like, why aren't they at my organization? So if you want to find young people, you need to go where the young people are at, right? So increasingly, I don't know if Snapchat is a thing for young adults, but I know it's a thing for young people. But I do think Instagram is certainly a platform where a lot of them are at. But there's also lots of different hobbies and magazines and interests and meeting places in person. Even though we're in this really crazy situation with distancing, there are lots of places where young people still go. They have to shop, depending on what your geography is. If you're in Denver, it's going to be different than New York City. But I would say that you need to have, we talked about that customer avatar thing earlier. What would make a young person want to get involved with your library, right? I mean, for an older person, it might be the quiet. It might be the fact that they have these DVDs that they can watch on their DVD player. For a younger person, the library represents programming. Like, there's this great class about how to write a novel that's offered every Saturday, and I want to go learn how to write, at the local library. So the programming that you offer could be boosted by other key influencers in your community. Get elected officials, get any kind of local celebrities, radio hosts talking about your library. But I think that you have to do some market research in your geography, unless you're nationwide, about how to reach young people. But that data is available, and it's really inexpensive to get.
Yeah, one idea I kind of had while you were talking there, Sean, is what about, so this is a library organization, Friends of the Library, and you kind of touched upon that coding group. What if you were to reach out to a local organization that's young coders? There are so many, or girls who can code, and say, hey, we have this cool library organization. Is there something we can do jointly together? Maybe we'll send an email to our group, you send an email to your group. There's like a lot of cross-pollination opportunities there.
Libraries have such an amazing opportunity. So certainly if you wanted to do something around coding, Girls Who Code, Code for America, Out in Tech, which is the national LGBT, actually international LGBT, they have like 35 or 40,000 members of just people in the technology sector. Some of them are coders, some of them are not. So coding could be a thing where you reach out to, and there are tons of people now that have Zoom groups. They have Slack channels of thousands of people talking with each other that did not exist 3 months ago. So sometimes one person, like I belong to a number of Slack groups of thousands of people, and one person drops in one thing saying, hey, this charity needs a board member, and people pounce on it like, oh, that's great. I'm looking to do some, people are looking to adopt pets right now. They're also looking to adopt causes because some people have extra money on their, in their wallet because they're not spending, and some people have extra time, right? So the coding thing is one example, but if you like in the United States, there's this thing about drag queen happy hour. It's been really controversial, but like libraries have decided that it would be fun. In some parts, it's been controversial, but they have drag queens reading books to children, right? And it's like this incredible crossover appeal to progressive parents who like have this person in costume just reading fun children's stories, right? And so it has this crossover appeal to the LGBTQ community and the performance world, and also young people who think it's entertaining as heck. And then so getting new audiences into the library. For some more conservative folks, they don't like that, but being a library, you have space and you have access to all of these tools. So you can use that space to do all sorts of things. You could offer things for cooking. You could offer classes for anything, not just coding. So there's so much opportunity with libraries, I would imagine.
All I'm going to say is that if RuPaul is having a reading hour in my local library, I will be there. Mask and gloves, but I will be there because, we
Not
are
sure
in the era
any
of COVID.
libraries can afford RuPaul, but there will be a drag queen at some of them.
Okay, very cool. So we do have some more questions, but you touched on Slack, and this is something that we're in episode 3, and we've never talked about Slack before, and I think it's such a good tool that I would love to kind of hear about how some of the organizations you're working with are using Slack, or how you use Slack. You've already mentioned kind of one group that you're part of.
Yeah, I mean, I had never used Slack until a year and a half ago, and I have just fallen in love with it. It is a powerful, easy, friendly, free software that any people, so you can do Google groups, you can do Facebook groups, but now Slack has emerged on the scene as a place where people are organized and they get together and they share files and emojis and all sorts of stuff, right? So one group, I'll just mention that they exist out there, the Management Center, which is like a national organization dedicated to training nonprofit organizations on management. They have a Slack channel, just many Slack channels, just filled with people who are nonprofit leaders who have been through some kind of management training. When I need anything on management, leadership, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I drop something into the Slack group for the Management Center, and people have answers like left, right, and center, diverse group of people around the country. So I've been through one of their trainings. All of a sudden, I'm an alumni, so I get to go into the Slack channel if I want it. Without in tech, they have 13,000 people in their Slack channel, right? They have many, many, many different threads. So people just in San Francisco, people who just care about diversity, people who care about coding. But Slack has emerged as a really powerful place. Again, it's free. There are etiquette rules per group. You just get it. You can get it on your phone, you get it on your desktop. And getting into these rooms usually takes an invitation. I'm not even in the tech sector, but I'm in the out in tech group because I'm sort of like a groupie with a lot of these people between New York and San Francisco where I've lived. And I know the founder of that organization. So, but there are ways to get into those groups, and you can get research. You can just ask questions. People will give you feedback, and you can also find solutions to problems. It's just powerful.
That's awesome. I have to say, I'm a big believer in Slack myself. I found my last 3 jobs all through connections on Slack, including this one. So definitely a big fan, and I think definitely an underutilized resource.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about Instagram today. I think everyone's going to be talking about Slack a year or 2 from now.
Mhm.
Okay, and this is an interesting one. So we were talking about the difficulty of connecting to people during this time. Anne runs an horticultural association, and right now is a really busy time. I guess everyone's out in their gardens, so she's worried about bothering them. But how does she stay in touch if she doesn't want to bother them?
She needs to get over that worry. People are hungry right now for engagement. They are hungry for engagement. There are days I don't want to read my email, and there are days that I don't want to be bothered with things. But many other days, as an extrovert, I'm just hungry, for people to reach out and sort of, contact me. We need to not project our own fears, wishes, hopes, or personality style on our members. All you can do is try and you tinker, right? If you call a bunch of your members or reach out at dinner, you're going to get people that are frustrated or angry. If you call a little bit later, you pick your people by time zone, or if you're in a local organization, which most organizations are, and you say, at noon is a great time to send to be posting about something or to send out a text message. There's software out there that's very affordable to do text messaging. I mean, that's like a gentle way of getting people engaged and answering questions. You can also do chat bots through Facebook or other software where people arrive at your site or they arrive at your Facebook page, like Chat Fuel and other ones, where you can just be constantly engaging people who are already coming to you. In terms of reaching out to people that aren't coming to you, like proactively, again, text messaging, emailing, phoning. You can do phone trees. If you've got a volunteer-based or a networked organization, like in a church or a house of worship or a chapter-based model where everyone's really connected with each other, sports teams or whatever, you can absolutely be reaching out and calling. I do think that our fear that we are going to be bothering people right now is mostly unfounded. As a fundraiser, I hear people all the time saying, I don't want to raise money right now. I'm afraid to ask for money. I'm like, things are going to get worse, right? They're not going to get better. They're going to get worse first this year. There's going to be a cascade of bad news economically. We're about to see possibly another wave or another spike of like infections, and businesses that are opening are going to be shut down. There's all these federal laws that are kicking in this summer. People have been prevented from being evicted. They're going to start being allowed to be evicted. The airlines are going to lose their bailout money in September, and they're going to start laying off people left and right. So there's going to be wave after wave of bad news still coming. You can't wait for things to be in the clear. You need to start engaging people now if your organization is going to survive. For fundraising, for engagement, now's the time to unleash a whole new way of engaging people. It could be digitally, it could be in person. We saw people when people have something in front of them that they want to do, like these protests that were happening around the country and around the world after the death of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd. We saw people willing to leave their house and go to demonstrations, right? A lot of the pride marches around the country still happened, right? People are willing to leave their house. So don't be too afraid about engaging people. I think that we are more likely to step in it if you show up someplace without a mask than you are to call out and reach out to someone to ask for help.
Okay, so everyone, you heard it here first. You can't bother people. They want to hear from you, and they're motivated. So thanks for that one, Sean. Okay, so this is interesting because we just touched on COVID, and I know we've mentioned it once or twice, but I feel like that was the first super detailed look at it on that response. So Joanne would like to know about. So Joanne's issue is she works for a small government research agency, and their annual fundraising event has been canceled because of COVID. Yeah, that's happened to a lot of us for sure. So she's thinking about holding an online fundraising event with a guest speaker, but she'd like some advice on how do you do an online guest speaker, and do you have just any advice in general on how to do, like, I guess, an online fundraiser with a guest speaker?
I've never had to do this, but lots of organizations have pivoted. I will say that even though you can't do your in-person event, there are so many opportunities with the fact that you no longer have to do an in-person event. Far fewer contracts, far fewer hassle, venue, food, catering, the coats that are hung up, like the RSVPs, check-ins. There's 100 things you no longer have to deal with. The complexity is now register, join the Zoom room, right? So there are ways that you could have a rolling event all day long, or a rolling event every night for 4 nights in a row with the same Zoom link. Everyone just comes in and they come out. I've seen this happen with political candidates. Everyone just joins for coffee and everyone is talking, and we're all setting up a coffee or a cocktail or whatever with this candidate for office. And then the candidate makes a pitch during the thing and says, you can't use Venmo to send me money, but you absolutely could right now go to this website that I'm going to drop in the chat. And if we can raise this much on this call, someone's going to match it, right? So you also can have greater diversity by doing virtual events, right? A lot of people are like, oh, we never get as much diversity because the ticket price is so high. We'll bring the ticket down, broaden the universe of people that you can reach and engage and invite, and get like a broader universe. Now you might be able to get a speaker you never could afford before because they don't have to travel. They can do back-to-back events. Folks have seen Cameo, which is like the software that allows like celebrities to kind of zoom in and do a greeting for everybody. You can do a series of those for one night for like $1,000, right? Like a bunch of celebrities saying, hey, you can write the script for the celebrity to write and say, hey, this organization does great work. There's all sorts of interesting, clever ways. Another thing I will say about this virtual event idea is that you do need to get creative. This is going to force us to be creative, right? So one of the things you can do is online auctions that span multiple days. You can certainly encourage folks to do multiple celebrities, multiple elected officials. You're able to see me, right? Still, I'm getting like a tough connection alert from my computer. Okay. And so in addition to getting elected leaders who now their schedules have opened up a little bit more, right? Because elected leaders are usually asked to go to a lot of different things, celebrities. But the other thing about virtual events, engaging people around virtual events, is that it doesn't have to be at one time. One clever thing a friend of mine did, she went on Facebook and said, hey everyone, we've decided to put our gala online. I want you all, and something happened, I think, where they just wanted, finally toward the end, they just wanted attendance to be really high. So they just said, I want everyone to go to our page and register for our gala, whether or not you can pay and whether or not you can attend. We want to see momentum. We want to know that people are paying attention. So if you can possibly just go to this link, register as if you're coming, and I think this was genius because I went and then I felt like, oh, I should probably give them some money. And I bet you anything, hundreds of people did the same thing. They went to this thing, they started going through the thing to say that they were going to go. And it's like, hey, do you still want to make a donation? And then they did. So there are all sorts of little clever ways. If you can get people to take that step, right? And I think Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, when someone I know asks me, help my cause, please go to this link and do this thing that costs nothing, you might still be able to sucker them in to give some money. But people are innovating in all sorts of ways. But if you want to do a virtual event, you will need to think about different strategies. Pause with a Cause decided to put out one email a day. They got a match. They split the match across multiple, the first day and the last day of this fundraiser, and they spent March 23rd to March 27th, like just putting out one message a day, saying in order for it to help pets still be with these disabled, I forgot the name they use for the folks who like have the dogs for a while. But if you want to make these partnerships still happen, if you want these resources to still be available, we need to raise this much today. And then the next day it was like, now we need to raise this much today, and there's a match. And they hit 50-some $1,000 in a week, right? In less than a week. So if you make targeted specific requests, your key donors will be there for you. You might want to warm them up that it's coming before you do it, instead of just like, oh, the event is gone, now we're just going to send an email. No, it has to be more sustained.
Okay, very thorough, Sean. So appreciate that. I mean, I wish I was taking notes here. That was good. Hopefully, hopefully Joanne got all of that. Okay, so we are at 3:43, so we have time for maybe one or two more questions, and we're going to have to wrap it up. So we have an interesting one. So Esmina, her organization is an international organization, and one of their challenges is recruiting members to the board. How would you go about recruiting members?
So recruiting members to an international board,
Yeah.
I think it works the same as any board, right? First, you have to have a strategy. Some boards are just like, I just need rich people. Or some other boards are like, I'm just going to grab my friends. Some boards are sort of like, I need people that are diverse by skill set, geography, and demography, right? They want a racially diverse mix of people on the board, age, whatever. My thing is, I think about strategy first. So at Tyler Clementi Foundation, we decided to change the way we built the board. We said, who's going to help us actually reach our mission, right? Who is actually going to help us end bullying in schools, which is something you actually can do. There are schools in this country where there is no bullying. So if we want to end bullying, we had a particular intervention. So we went to a nationally well-known leader who had reach to 1.7 million teachers and said, you are someone that we want on our board. So with the other stuff like skill set, geographic reach, all that stuff was secondary. The first thing we decided was who's going to help us reach our mission. And this particular person who had a huge reach to teachers, we asked this person to join our board and they agreed. And it was amazing. We were just like, oh, wow, the speed at which we will hopefully be able to reach our mission just got a lot faster. So when you're thinking about building a board, don't just grab the people that are near you or grab the people you bump into, although that's not always a horrible strategy, and I'll explain why in a second. But you have to have a strategy first. Your strategy might be, oh my God, my board is so small right now. If we don't have 4 members in the next 4 months, we're not going to have quorum and we're not going to exist under our bylaws. I just need 4 board members right now. But your other strategy long-term should be, we want a well-rounded, high-performing group of people that are all over the world. And so So I won't get into the whole why you should still talk to people that are still close to you, because some of the gems are actually people you bump into every day that have no expertise in your issue whatsoever. But internationally, again, this is one of the things where our own personal networks can be really powerful. I don't know how international organizations network. I don't know if there must be mutual aid societies and intergovernmental and quasi-governmental organizations, whether it's like Oxfam or the Red Cross or whatever, that are assisting and working with governments around the world. But there have to be places where these folks are sort of like connecting with each other. But if I was going into an international organization and helping them identify board members, I would use personal networks. Absolutely. Can this person introduce me to this person, and then this person introduce me to that person? You probably only need 2 or 3 board members, at most probably 4. So this should not be a tall task, right? So I would definitely use personal networks. I wouldn't use any other kind of targeting. It's a personal invitation or interest by someone who can vouch for this person.
Okay, 4 board members max. I run a small neighborhood organization and I have 8 board members. So I got some thinking to do.
I meant this person needs to find 4 more. They probably already have a board, right? Of course
Okay.
they need like plus, but my hunch is that they only need 4 more.
Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying
Yeah.
there, Sean. I appreciate it. Next up, probably our last question for the day. Okay, so now people are more comfortable with virtual meetings. Should I throw more meetings out than I usually did in the past? So, for example, once a month, I guess once a month they used to do in-person seminars. So they're saying now that everyone's used to virtual, should I do bi-weekly? Should I do every week? What do you think, Sean?
Depends on your issue, and it depends on whether your universe of people are zoomed out, right? For some people, their organization focuses on the outdoors. They might not be zoomed out. If you're an organization that does lots of online training, you're probably zoomed out. So it depends on the issue, depends on the cause. If you're in a part of the country that's really rural, you might not have, like when I was up in Napa a couple of weeks ago, it is not a densely populated area in wine country. So people are interacting with each other very much like out talking with each other in a way that you might not see in downtown San Francisco, right? Just a couple hours away. So every part of the country is different. Every cause is different. I do think if you were only doing 1 a month, you could definitely do more than that. Definitely do more than that. But again, ask yourself, are these people that I'm asking to do a lot of meetings, volunteer board members? If I'm starting to get them to do too many meetings, is that too much? And the best thing to do is ask them. We don't survey our members often enough. One of the biggest failings of companies and nonprofits is that we fail to survey our members, to ask them what their appetite is for stuff, right? So we underutilize that free data source. So you can ask, but I do think that there's an appetite right now because people are saving money, they're saving time, they're saving commuting, that you can ask and you can offer these things. And it could be a get in where you fit in. We're going to have a standing thing every night, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, happy hour and talking about books, or happy hour and talking about pets, or whatever your nonprofit cause is. So people can kind of join when they want to or not join when they don't want to.
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely not going out much these days. So I have seen the bank account going in a little bit higher gear going up. So maybe some of the nonprofits that I'm involved with should hit me up. They should listen to you, Sean, and send a lot more messages.
Everyone on this call, ask him for money.
Oh no, my name's showing. We're in trouble now. Okay, we are at 3:49, almost 3:50. So I think it's a good time to wrap it up. We do have another question, Sean, but I think it's one that you're going to really like, because I was going to say, well, thank you. This has been great. I've learned a ton. I got some stuff to put it to work from this. So I imagine everyone else here is in the same boat. So thank you so much. So the last question is, Sean, do you have a website? That's not me asking. That's
Oh,
actually someone.
what?
Sandy wants to know.
What a great question. So we're going to send, I have a website, nonprofitfixer.com. That is my main website. You can get to all my other things, my courses, my YouTube channel, everything else from that one site, nonprofitfixer.com. But Allie's going to drop in 2 links into the chat for everyone to see for some free tools that I have for folks that really love fundraising or enjoy fundraising and want your boards to fundraising. I have this great free tool. You just sign up, give me your email, and you get this free tool, the board fundraising worksheet. It is my highest highest performing tool. It is the thing I use with every board I work with. Totally works. There's some science behind it. So if you have any questions, email me about how to use the tool, but basically it should be self-evident. So the board fundraising worksheet is one link we have there for you. And the other one is a great free webinar that I'm offering right now, which has been a huge hit around Build a Rockstar Board. So how to transform your nonprofit board in 90 days, which sounds like a tall tale, but if your board is motivated, the tips in this webinar can set you on the right track to actually transform your board to show up, have great meetings, do their job, and raise money within 90 days. So you can watch that free webinar at the second link, Rockstar Board 1. And then those are the 3 links that I would send people to, and sign up, and you'll get lots of kernels of wisdom just like this today, but very regularly.
Yeah, and follow Sean's advice and follow him on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. You'll get to tons of other great ideas, and you message him enough, you share his stuff enough, maybe he'll connect with you and put you in touch with the right people. Put you on the spot, Sean.
I will.
There you go. Okay, everyone. Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here today. This was absolutely wonderful. Always enjoy hosting these chats. They move so fast and learn so much. So thank you, audience. Thank you, Sean, and everyone. With that, everyone have an absolute wonderful 4th of July if you're celebrating. If you're not, just have a really great weekend, and we'll hopefully see you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks, audience. Thanks you, Sean, and we'll see you next time on Targeted Impact.
Thank you.
Bye.